Have you ever felt the sting of someone's disrespect? That moment when someone dismisses your ideas, speaks over you, or treats you as if you're invisible? Disrespect can shake our confidence, trigger anger, and even make us question our worth. But what if I told you that these painful moments could become opportunities for profound personal growth? What if the ancient wisdom of Stoicism could transform how you experience and respond to disrespect forever? In this comprehensive guide, we'll explore 15 powerful Stoic strategies that will not only help you handle disrespect with dignity, but actually use it as a catalyst for becoming stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The ancient Stoics, philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, faced disrespect just as we do today. As a Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius dealt with constant criticism and opposition. Seneca endured exile and threats to his life. Epictetus lived as a slave before becoming a respected teacher. These philosophers didn't just survive disrespect, they developed practical wisdom to transcend it. And today, their time-tested strategies can transform how you experience and respond to disrespect in your own life. Before we begin, I want to challenge you to stay with me until the end. The insights shared here aren't just theoretical, they're practical tools you can apply immediately to change how disrespect affects you. Let's begin this journey toward Stoic resilience together. Strategy 1. Master your reactions. When someone disrespects you, what happens in the moments that follow? For most of us, it's an automatic chain reaction. Our heart rate increases, our muscles tense, and emotions flood our system before we've even had time to think. The Stoics recognized this pattern thousands of years ago. As Epictetus wisely observed, people are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. This insight is revolutionary when applied to disrespect. The disrespectful comment or action itself has no inherent power over you. What creates suffering is your interpretation and reaction to it. Imagine you're in a meeting and a colleague dismissively cuts you off mid-sentence. The immediate interpretation might be, "Oh, they don't respect me. They think my ideas are worthless." This interpretation, not the interruption itself, is what causes your emotional pain. The Stoic alternative? Pause in that critical moment between stimulus and response. In that space lies your freedom. Ask yourself, is my interpretation the only possible one? Could they be anxious about time, excited about their own idea, simply unaware of their rudeness? By questioning your initial interpretation, you reclaim control over your emotional response. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings, it means examining them before they control you. Marcus Aurelius practiced this discipline daily, writing, "So you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The next time you face disrespect, remember, you cannot control others' actions, but you can master your reaction. This mastery is the foundation of Stoic resilience in the face of disrespect. Strategy 2. Examine the source. The Stoics understood a profound truth about disrespect. Its power comes not from the words or actions themselves, but from whom they come from and the value we assign to their opinions. Consider this question. If a 5-year-old child called you stupid, would it affect you deeply? Probably not. You understand the child doesn't have the life experience or knowledge to make such a judgment accurately. You might even find it amusing rather than hurtful. Now apply this same reasoning to adults who disrespect you. As Epictetus advised, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. When faced with disrespect, the Stoic approach is to examine the source. Ask yourself, does this person have accurate information about me or the situation? Have they demonstrated wisdom in their judgments of others? Do they possess the expertise to offer valid criticism in this area? Are their own actions worthy of respect and emulation? This isn't about dismissing all criticism or disrespect. Far from it. The Stoics valued growth through honest feedback. Rather, it's about contextualizing disrespect by considering its source. Marcus Aurelius practiced this regularly, reminding himself, "And the opinion of someone who doesn't know you well should not disturb your peace of mind." If someone who doesn't truly know you, lacks wisdom in their judgments, or demonstrates poor character themselves shows you disrespect, why grant their opinion such power over your emotional state? By examining the source of disrespect, you can respond proportionally, taking valuable feedback from credible sources while letting inconsequential opinions pass without harm. Strategy 3. Practice the pause. In moments of disrespect, our instinctive reaction is often immediate and emotionally charged. We want to defend ourselves, strike back, or withdraw in pain. The Stoics recognized the danger in these impulsive responses. Seneca, who advised emperors and faced tremendous political pressure, wrote, "And the greatest remedy for anger is delay." This simple but profound advice forms the basis of our third strategy: practice the pause. When disrespect comes your way, consciously insert a moment of silence before you respond. This pause, even if just a few seconds, creates space between stimulus and response, allowing your rational mind to regain control from your emotional impulses. During this pause, take a deep breath. Feel the air fill your lungs and then release. This simple act activates your parasympathetic nervous system, helping to calm your fight or flight response. The power of the pause is that it prevents regrettable reactions. How many times have you later regretted words spoken in the heat of the moment? The pause gives you the freedom to choose your response rather than being controlled by impulse. As Marcus Aurelius advised himself, and when jarred, unavoidably, by circumstances, revert at once to yourself, and don't lose the rhythm more than you can help. You'll have a better grasp of harmony if you keep going back to it. This practice doesn't come naturally. It requires consistent effort to develop. Start by being aware of your emotional triggers. Notice the physical sensations that arise when you feel disrespected. This awareness itself creates a small pause, a moment of choice. With practice, you'll find yourself automatically creating this space between disrespect and response, giving yourself the gift of choice rather than reaction. Strategy 4. Seek the lesson. The Stoics believed that every circumstance, even painful ones, contained opportunities for growth and learning. Disrespect, viewed through this lens, becomes not just an unwelcome experience, but a valuable teacher. As Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. When someone disrespects you, after you've practiced the pause, ask yourself, what can I learn from this situation? This simple question transforms your relationship with the experience, moving you from victim to student. Perhaps the lesson is about setting better boundaries. Maybe it reveals a blind spot in how you communicate. It might teach you about the other person's insecurities or your own triggers. Every instance of disrespect contains valuable information if you're willing to look for it. This approach doesn't mean you excuse or welcome disrespect. Rather, you're extracting value from an experience that would otherwise only cause harm. Marcus Aurelius embodied this mindset, writing, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He understood that obstacles, including disrespect, could become stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Consider keeping a journal where you record instances of disrespect and the lessons you've extracted from them. Over time, you'll develop a treasury of personal wisdom born from difficulty. By seeking the lesson in disrespect, you reclaim your power. The person who disrespected you may have intended to diminish you, but instead, they've contributed to your growth. That's a profound reversal that lies at the heart of Stoic resilience. Strategy 5. Cultivate internal validation. In our hyper-connected world, external validation has become increasingly important. Likes, comments, and public approval shape how many people measure their worth. The Stoics would have recognized this as a dangerous trap. Epictetus, who began life as a slave, taught, "And make it your goal to desire nothing but your own reasoned choice and freedom from passion and disturbance." This fifth strategy, cultivating internal validation, is perhaps the most powerful shield against the pain of disrespect. When your sense of worth comes primarily from within, from living according to your values and virtues, then external disrespect loses much of its sting. Ask yourself, Am I living according to my principles? Am I treating others with dignity? Am I doing work I can be proud of? If the answers are yes, then you have the strongest foundation for genuine self-respect. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or dismissing all feedback. The Stoics valued humility and growth. Rather, it means developing an internal compass that isn't thrown off course by every external opinion. Seneca advised, and we should always allow some time to elapse, for time discloses the truth. Your worth isn't determined in the moment someone disrespects you, but through the consistent pattern of your choices and actions over time. Practice internal validation by regularly reflecting on your adherence to your values, rather than focusing exclusively on results or others' opinions. Celebrate when you act with courage, honesty, justice, and self-discipline, regardless of whether these actions are recognized by others. With strong internal validation, disrespect becomes less about you and more about the other person's perception and behavior. You can respond with clarity rather than reacting from insecurity. Strategy 6. Practice empathetic understanding. When someone disrespects us, our natural instinct is to view them as an adversary, someone intentionally causing us harm. The Stoics, however, encouraged a more nuanced view of human behavior. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil." This isn't cynicism, but recognition that people often act poorly out of ignorance rather than malice. The Stoic practice of empathetic understanding means attempting to see the world through the eyes of the person who disrespected you. Ask yourself, what might be happening in their life? What insecurities or fears might drive this behavior? What misunderstandings might they have? This doesn't excuse their disrespect, but it helps you respond more effectively and with less emotional reactivity. Perhaps they're facing pressure you're unaware of, or they misinterpreted your actions, or they're repeating behavior patterns they learned long ago. Epictetus taught his students, when someone does something you don't like, look to your own intentions. Ask yourself why that person acted the way they did. What was their impression of the situation? Practicing empathetic understanding doesn't mean becoming a doormat or accepting mistreatment. Rather, it allows you to respond with wisdom rather than wounded pride. Next time you face disrespect, try this mental exercise. Imagine what circumstances and beliefs would lead a reasonable person to act this way. This simple shift in perspective often reduces anger and helps you respond constructively rather than reactively. Strategy 7. Maintain your dignity. When faced with disrespect, our immediate impulse might be to respond in kind, to match rudeness with rudeness or hostility with hostility. The Stoics recognized the self-defeating nature of this approach. Seneca observed, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." This wisdom applies perfectly to maintaining dignity in the face of disrespect. Maintaining your dignity means responding to disrespect in a way that aligns with your highest values rather than mirroring the other person's behavior. If you value respect, patience, and fairness, let these virtues guide your response, regardless of how you've been treated. This doesn't mean being passive or allowing yourself to be mistreated. It means addressing the situation with composed strength rather than reactive emotion. Marcus Aurelius practiced this principle, writing, "At best, revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." When someone disrespects you, responding with respect and dignity creates a contrast that is both powerful and instructive. Practical ways to maintain dignity include speaking in a calm, measured tone, even when provoked, addressing the behavior rather than attacking the person, setting clear boundaries without hostility, choosing words that reflect your values rather than your momentary emotions. When you maintain your dignity in the face of disrespect, you demonstrate true strength of character. You show that your behavior is determined by your principles, not by others' actions. As Epictetus taught, make it your study to respond to every harsh impression with gentleness and tranquility. This is the essence of Stoic dignity, not weakness, but power under perfect control. Strategy 8. Set clear boundaries. The practice of Stoicism is often misunderstood as passive acceptance of whatever happens to you. Nothing could be further from the truth. The Stoics advocated wise action within your sphere of control, and setting boundaries is precisely such action. Seneca advised, "Intersociate with people who are likely to improve you." This isn't about isolation, but about making conscious choices about the treatment you're willing to accept. Setting boundaries means clearly communicating what behavior you will and won't tolerate, and what consequences will follow boundary violations. This isn't done with anger or threats, but with calm clarity. For example, if a colleague repeatedly interrupts you in meetings, a boundary might be, "I've noticed I'm often interrupted when speaking. I need to be able to finish my thoughts. If this continues, I'll address it directly in the moment." Boundaries are not demands that others change. They're statements about what you will do to protect your well-being and dignity. Epictetus, who endured slavery before becoming a philosopher, understood boundaries intimately. "And make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." Setting boundaries follows this wisdom perfectly. You cannot control others' initial behavior, but you can clearly establish consequences that are within your control. Effective boundaries are specific about the behavior, not the person's character; clear about the impact of the behavior; explicit about what will happen if the boundary is crossed; delivered with calm confidence rather than emotional reactivity; consistently maintained. By setting clear boundaries, you transform disrespect from an ongoing wound into a clear choice for the other person. They can adjust their behavior or experience the consequences you've established. This strategy honors both your dignity and the agency of others. It is the Stoic middle path between passive acceptance and angry demands, a path of empowered clarity. Strategy 9. Develop philosophical perspective. When disrespect strikes, our immediate perception magnifies its importance. An offhand comment can ruin our day. A dismissive gesture can occupy our thoughts for hours. The Stoics cultivated a philosophical perspective to counter this natural tendency. Marcus Aurelius practiced this regularly, writing, "How very little is all that we need." When you have trouble getting out of bed, remind yourself that pursuing your calling is what human beings are made for. Consider how the natural world functions. Do birds delay taking flight? Do ants hesitate in their industriousness? This cosmic perspective reminds us how small most instances of disrespect truly are against the backdrop of our entire lives, let alone human history or the universe itself. When someone disrespects you, try this Stoic exercise. Imagine viewing the situation from progressively greater distances. See it from across the room, then from above the building, then from the perspective of the city, the country, the planet, and finally, the cosmos. From this expanded perspective, does the disrespect still hold the same power? Or does it reveal itself as a momentary ripple in an unimaginably vast ocean? Epictetus taught his students, "Remember that you are an actor in a play determined by the author. Your job is to act well the part assigned to you. The choice of the role is another's." This perspective helps us respond proportionally to disrespect. Not every instance requires a major response or deep emotional processing. Some can simply be noted and released, recognized as minor moments in the grand performance of life. Developing philosophical perspective doesn't mean dismissing genuine harm or serious disrespect. Rather, it helps us calibrate our responses appropriately, reserving our emotional energy for what truly matters. Strategy 10. Practice selective ignorance. Not every instance of disrespect deserves your attention or response. The Stoics understood the value of selective ignorance, consciously choosing what to address and what to let pass without engagement. Seneca advised, we should spend our lives learning to live, and even more surprisingly, learning to die." In other words, our time and attention are limited resources. Wisdom lies in choosing carefully what deserves these precious commodities. When faced with disrespect, ask yourself, does this require my response? Will engaging improve the situation or merely drain my energy? Often, the wisest course is simply to continue your path unbothered. This isn't avoidance or fear, it's strategic allocation of your resources. Not every slight requires rectification. Not every rude comment needs correction. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply to continue focusing on what matters to you. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily, reminding himself, "And you always own the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up about things you can't control." Practical applications of selective ignorance include not engaging with intentionally provocative comments, letting minor rudeness pass without comment, choosing not to join conversations where disrespect is common, not seeking out opinions about yourself from sources known to be critical. This strategy requires discernment. Some disrespect does need to be addressed, particularly when it affects your ability to function effectively or creates an unsafe environment. The wisdom lies in distinguishing between what requires your response and what you can simply let pass. By practicing selective ignorance, you conserve your energy for what truly deserves your attention, your goals, your loved ones, and your personal growth. Strategy 11. Find the humor. Even in the midst of disrespect, the Stoics recognized the liberating power of humor. Finding the lighter side of difficult situations was not about diminishing genuine harm, but about maintaining perspective and emotional freedom. Seneca understood this, writing, "A mind should be accustomed to make fun of all those things which drive us to distraction." Humor creates distance between you and the disrespect, allowing you to observe the situation with detachment rather than being consumed by it. It's a form of instant perspective that can break the spell of anger or hurt. This doesn't mean laughing off serious harm or making jokes that diminish your own dignity. Rather, it means finding the absurdity or irony in everyday disrespect that might otherwise ruin your peace of mind. For example, if someone makes a cutting remark in a meeting, you might inwardly observe the irony of how their attempt to appear superior actually reveals their insecurity. This private humor helps you respond with composure rather than reactivity. Marcus Aurelius, despite the tremendous pressures of ruling an empire, maintained his sanity partly through humor, and passed through this brief patch of time in harmony with nature, and come to your final resting place gracefully, just as a ripened olive might drop, praising the earth that nourished it and grateful to the tree that gave it growth. Practical ways to find humor in disrespect include imagining the situation as a scene in a comedy, noticing the absurd exaggerations in someone's criticism, appreciating the irony when someone's disrespect reveals more about them than about you, creating a private, light-hearted nickname for repetitive disrespectful behaviors. Finding humor doesn't mean you don't take yourself seriously, it means you don't take disrespect more seriously than it deserves. This light touch preserves your emotional freedom and often leads to more effective responses. Strategy 12. Seek constructive feedback. Within disrespect often lies a kernel of legitimate feedback, albeit poorly delivered. The Stoics valued truth, even when it was uncomfortable, and recognized that growth requires honest assessment. Epictetus advised, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." While disrespect is never justified, your growth shouldn't be held hostage to others' poor delivery. This strategy involves separating the useful content of criticism from its disrespectful delivery. Ask yourself, setting aside the tone and approach, is there anything I can learn here? Is there a grain of truth I can use? For example, if a colleague rudely points out errors in your presentation, you can acknowledge the validity of the corrections while addressing the inappropriate delivery separately. Marcus Aurelius practiced this regularly, writing, "And you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." This perspective allows you to receive valuable feedback without being diminished by the disrespectful manner in which it's delivered. Practical ways to implement this strategy include mentally rephrasing disrespectful criticism in a more constructive tone, asking clarifying questions to focus on the content rather than the delivery, thanking someone for useful information while addressing the tone separately, reflecting later on what kernels of truth might exist within harsh criticism. By seeking constructive feedback within disrespect, you demonstrate true Stoic strength, the ability to grow from any circumstance, even when it's delivered without respect or kindness. Strategy 13. Practice forgiveness. The burden of harboring resentment after being disrespected affects you far more than the person who disrespected you. The Stoics understood that forgiveness is primarily an act of self-liberation rather than a gift to others. Seneca wrote, "A person who cannot be angry with anything acknowledges that they have gained much more than the angry person." This insight is at the heart of Stoic forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning disrespect or allowing it to continue. Rather, it means releasing the emotional charge associated with the event so it no longer occupies your thoughts or affects your peace of mind. Marcus Aurelius practiced this approach, reminding himself, "And est revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." By refusing to carry anger and resentment, you demonstrate a strength of character that transcends the original disrespect. Practical steps toward forgiveness include acknowledging the full impact of the disrespect without minimizing it, recognizing that holding on to resentment primarily harms you, understanding that most disrespect comes from others' limitations, not your worth, consciously choosing to release the emotional charge of the memory, wishing the other person well, not out of superiority, but genuine humanity. This last point, wishing well for someone who has disrespected you, is perhaps the most challenging aspect of forgiveness. Yet the Stoics would recognize it as the ultimate freedom from others' power over your emotional state. Epictetus taught, "When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger." This practice of self-reflection creates the humility necessary for genuine forgiveness. By practicing forgiveness, you reclaim the energy and attention that would otherwise be consumed by resentment, redirecting it toward your growth and flourishing. Strategy 14. Focus on your sphere of control. The cornerstone of Stoic philosophy is the dichotomy of control, understanding what is within your power and what is not. When facing disrespect, this principle becomes your anchor. Epictetus framed it clearly: some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power are our body, our property, reputation, office, and, in a word, whatever is not of our own doing. When someone disrespects you, several elements exist beyond your control: their behavior and choices, their opinions and judgments, their emotional state, their past experiences that shaped their behavior, whether they will change or apologize. What remains within your control includes your interpretation of what happened, your emotional response, your external response, words and actions, your boundaries going forward, what meaning you assign to the experience. By focusing exclusively on your sphere of control, you reclaim your power in the situation. Rather than fixating on changing the other person impossible or wishing the disrespect hadn't occurred also impossible, you direct your energy toward what you can actually influence. Marcus Aurelius practiced this focusing technique, writing, "Once you have power over your mind, not outside events, realize this and you will find strength." This approach doesn't mean ignoring disrespect or taking no action. Rather, it means basing your actions on what you can control rather than what you cannot. You might choose to address the behavior directly, adjust your boundaries, or remove yourself from the situation, all choices within your sphere of control. By applying this strategy, disrespect loses much of its power over you. Instead of feeling victimized by circumstances outside your control, you recognize your agency in determining how you respond and what meaning you create from the experience. Strategy 15. Transform through adversity. The ultimate Stoic response to disrespect is not merely to endure it, but to use it as a catalyst for personal transformation. The philosophers recognized that our greatest growth often emerges from our most challenging experiences. Seneca observed, "Difficulty reveals the man." When faced with disrespect, you have an opportunity to demonstrate and develop virtues that might otherwise remain dormant: patience, courage, wisdom, and equanimity. This final strategy involves consciously choosing to become stronger and more virtuous through the experience of disrespect rather than being diminished by it. Marcus Aurelius embodied this approach, writing, "Anti-impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He understood that obstacles, including disrespect, could serve as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Practical ways to transform through adversity include identifying which virtues this particular instance of disrespect calls you to develop, setting specific intentions for how you want to grow from this experience, reflecting on how past experiences of disrespect have strengthened you, reframing the narrative from my "why this is happening to me" to "how this is happening for me," expressing gratitude for the opportunity to practice Stoic principles in real-world conditions. This transformation doesn't happen automatically. It requires conscious choice and consistent practice. But over time, you may find yourself genuinely grateful for experiences that once would have derailed your peace of mind. Epictetus, who endured slavery and exile, understood this profound truth. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. By choosing to transform through adversity, you convert disrespect from a painful experience into a catalyst for becoming the person you aspire to be. #Conclusion. We've journeyed through 15 powerful Stoic strategies for mastering disrespect, tools that transform potentially destructive experiences into opportunities for growth and self-mastery. These aren't merely theoretical concepts, but practical approaches that have stood the test of time for over 2,000 years. The Stoics faced disrespect just as we do today, and their wisdom continues to offer a path toward emotional freedom and personal dignity. Remember that mastering disrespect doesn't happen overnight. Like any worthwhile skill, it develops through consistent practice and reflection. Begin by choosing one or two strategies that resonate most strongly with you and implement them consciously when disrespect arises. Over time, you may find that experiences that once would have ruined your day barely disturb your peace of mind. You may discover a new freedom in your interactions, knowing that your well-being doesn't depend on others' behavior, but on your own choices and perspective. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "And you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." I challenge you to apply these Stoic principles in your daily life. The next time you face disrespect, pause and recall the wisdom we've explored together. Choose your response consciously rather than reacting automatically. Observe how this shift in approach transforms not just the immediate situation but your relationship with disrespect itself. If you've found value in these Stoic strategies, please support our community by leaving a thumbs up and subscribing. Hit the notification bell to join us for more explorations of ancient wisdom applied to modern challenges. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, the path of Stoic wisdom isn't about suppressing emotions but mastering them, not about accepting mistreatment but transforming how you experience and respond to it. Stay strong, stay wise, stay Stoic.